Let's do that. So the reason we start with a video is that, as you said, every kid here has a story. And it's not just one story. If you have 18 children on your unit, you have 18 stories. Plus you may have 3 staff, 2 nurses, right? So there's 5 more stories, right? So we're always interacting with people who have something going on, maybe in the background that you don't know about. And being respectful and being considerate of that, as we talked about at the beginning, right? We are here to figure out how to take care of ourselves in a work environment that is surrounded and encapsulated with trauma. So resilience is the antidote to trauma. One of the things that's going to be very important to the children and the senior adults and the adults that we serve is trust. Okay? So we've been talking for a little while now, probably about as long as you would talk with a patient before you ask them something that required them to trust you. So very realistically, right now, think about this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much trust do you have in me? This is all the interactions we've had. It'd be about as much as you have with a patient. So write that number down. How much trust, 1 to 10, do you have in me?
Just on our hand or what?
You can write on, you guys have papers, tablets? Pass some of those tablets around. No, that's fine. Get pens. Or you can text it to yourself, I don't care. Usually don't want to touch your phone. All right? We'll come back to that in a minute. The reality is, everybody wrote down a number. You don't know entirely how you got that number. We'll talk about that in a little bit. How did you get that number? You don't know. But I will tell you this, every patient will give you a number after 10 minutes. And they'll give you a number after an hour. And they'll give you a number at the end of the first day. How much trust do they have in you? And you're gonna ask a lot of them. It doesn't matter what your role is. No matter what your role is, you're asking them to trust you. There we go. 3 clicks equals 1 slide, apparently. Let's continue to think about it from a kid's point of view, all right? So, or an adult's point of view, a patient's point of view. How do you make decisions about how you trust other people? What do you think your process is?
Based off of experiences that I've had myself.
Based off your experiences, great. And like, there's an S at that way in the experiences. Okay. What else?
Hard to trust someone who talks a lot.
Maybe it's hard to trust someone who talks a lot.
Wow.
Is it hard to trust somebody who doesn't talk very much? There's got some other people like, wait a second, what about those people?
So,
right?
Yeah, no for me, but
Yeah, different people are going to have different ways that they decide who they can trust. But Emma's point about S, experiences, how many experiences are you going to have with a patient the first day?
A lot.
1,000? Sometimes they're going to be experiencing you when they're not interacting with you. They're sitting here watching you interact with someone else. How are you treating that kid? How are you treating that co-worker?
They're observing.
They're observing constantly all kinds of information. This is what humans do. It's how we decide, is somebody safe, okay? You have exactly one tool when you're here working with the patients. It's the relationship. You may have knowledge. You may be a nurse or a driver or a cafeteria dietitian or custodial. You may have an area of expertise, okay, that you specialize in, but it's really the relationships that matter, okay? That's what is going to tell somebody, can I trust you? Because we're going to be talking about resilience, we should also talk about trauma. So let me just give you a quick lesson on trauma, okay? Acute trauma is a single time limited event. Something that happens, it can happen one time, okay? Maybe a tornado could be traumatizing, all all right? Because it came, it went through your whole town. Maybe it didn't even hit your house, but it hit your friend's house, and now they haven't come to school or they had to move. Maybe even, we had a big tornado here years ago and people died, right? So it could have been someone in your family or it could have just been that happened. A single time limited event could be traumatizing. However, I will say this. Oftentimes we don't take natural disasters personally. No matter what your belief is, faith in God or Mother Earth or whatever, you don't think that somebody threw a tornado at your house. Generally, you even might pray for help or peace or things like this for other people, but you don't think that some entity is actively throwing tornadoes at your house. Probably. Maybe someone does. Don't want to offend. Okay? But one-time events with people that break trust can be absolutely devastating. You go to a family reunion, you see a person you haven't seen for a while, you've turned into a teenager, and they say or do something that's invasive to your boundaries and your space. One time, maybe they didn't do anything that bad, but it broke all your boundaries. Hey, that was my favorite person, and now look what they've done, and now I feel terrible. And then you go tell somebody, and they say, oh my God, stop being a little liar. You can get people in trouble for saying stuff like that. And now, broken, right? Lots of breaking. So a one-time event can be very traumatizing. And we'll talk about some of the things that it can break. Chronic trauma is when something has been happening over a longer period of time. All right? So maybe for 2 or 3 years, something has been bad. Something that we don't often think about that can be traumatizing for children is divorce. Generally, not judging adults, everything's better, the divorce has been great, the kids are doing fine, right? Because kids also put on a veneer, they say, yeah, Mom, I'm fine, you guys aren't fighting anymore. The research shows it can take up to 2 years for even healthy kids to adjust after a divorce. What if a kid is already experiencing challenge, social difficulties, learning problems, and then there's a divorce? Think about the impact, generally, the research shows it's disproportionate that women generally become more impoverished after divorce. If the children stay with the mom, then they become more impoverished. They move from the big house to the apartment. They move from having their own room to sharing with their 2 siblings. Okay? And then they've been living like that for 3 years. You might not think of poverty as traumatizing, but it could be traumatizing. Okay? And that's not even taking into account things like neglect. Okay? We'll talk about a list of about 10 things that can be chronic conditions that can cause trauma. Complex trauma is multiple events occurring over time. I'll tell you a sad story. I'm not going to tell you all sad stories today. But imagine a kid comes in, let's say he's 9 years old. Why are you here? I got in a fight with grandma. Oh, okay. Why are you fighting with grandma? Well, grandma's trying to make me read, and I don't know how to read. Okay. Why you live with grandma? I live with grandma because mom's in rehab. Oh, how long has mom been in rehab? 2 years. How's she doing? I don't know. We haven't seen her. Okay. Well, where's dad? Dad's in prison. Why is dad in prison? He hit mom and stole a car. Oh, okay. These are very real stories. If you're working on our little kids unit, if you have 20 kids on the unit, 3 kids have that story or some version of that story. All right? Chronic situations that have contributed to their imbalance and emotional unhealthiness. All right? That is a common story. Like the video we watched, that's every kid has a story. All right? And I told you all of this stuff about trauma. Honestly, I'm going to talk about you a little more later than I am now, but I really told you all of that because of you. In this environment, you have to be the elements of healthiness to the children. In the acute side of the hospital, a kid comes in. Acute is like how severe is their difficulties, how immediate is their crisis. A kid comes in with very high acuity. What does that mean? It means today's Thursday, Wednesday, they did something to try to kill themselves. or they did something to severely hurt somebody else, or they made a serious threat at school, or they got so depressed that after so long, somebody noticed they haven't been getting out of bed or doing hygiene, they came to the hospital with an acute crisis, okay? Over whatever amount of time they will be at the hospital, if we do our job right, their acuity will go down. So they come in at, say, an 8, 9, or 10, and when they leave, hopefully they're at a 1, 2, or 3, right? They're better. As soon as that kid leaves, another kid comes in who's an 8, 9, or 10, all right? Which means, on average, on a unit, the acuity stays high. Because on the acute side, we're dealing with crises, all right? Make sense? Okay. So as a kid specifically is getting better, the unit maintains a certain emotional need, behavioral need, right? Psychological need. And you're working in that environment. So it is always stressful, toxic stress. It's always potentially stressful for you. I know what you're thinking. Somebody thinking, oh gosh, I'm so glad I'm in residential. I'm gonna do residential side, right? You think, oh gosh, those acute people are gonna suffer. Guess what? If you're in residential, you have the matriculated kids, the kids that graduate out of acute. Some of them graduate to residential. Some of them have come from other systems, foster care, other repeated hospitalizations, and now they're in residential. So their acuity may have come down a little bit. Now they're like a 6 or a 7, or maybe even an 8. But they didn't say they wanted to kill themselves this week. So now in residential, you have kids for a longer period of time, say 3 to 6 months, maybe even longer sometimes, who have a very high level of stress and are probably dealing with some acute trauma, chronic trauma, complex trauma. All right, did I skip complex earlier in my head? Yeah, I think I did. Complex trauma, this one's very important for you guys. Complex trauma is when the system fails the kid and creates trauma within the system. What are the systems? What are the systems?
State.
The state. It's another system.
Foster care.
Foster care.
School.
School. Those are really big systems, right? Guess what else? This is a system. Residential, hospitalization, outpatient therapy. We're part of the system, and what we want to be very committed to is not being a part of the trauma. When we fail, it's extremely suffering for the kid. Okay? What does that mean? It means pay attention to your job. I'm serious. Every day you're here, your job is your job. You are going to feel like absolute crap. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. If you're sitting looking at your phone, liking your friends' cat videos, and a kid slips across the hall because you look down and you get trapped into that zone, and you've been looking down for 11 minutes and thought it was just 10 seconds, and some kid slipped from one room to the other room and did something bad to a 9-year-old. I just checked my phone. Don't do that. Okay? It always matters. If you're working at Hobby Lobby or Taco Bell or something, you can be on your phone all day. Nobody cares. I care. Don't make me a bad taco man. I'm coming back in. I will talk not just to the manager. I will talk to you. I'm that guy. I'm so bad. I'm awful. I'm not really that awful. I'm just awful when I'm really hangry. Like 2 o'clock in the morning once, I did this, okay? I went into the Taco Bell, right? Like you guys, you go through the drive-thru, you shouldn't be eating tacos at 2 in the morning. It's the only thing that's open, right? And I get like 2 little tacos and a taco and a burrito or something. And I drive back home with this, like you know, you go home, you're gonna eat now. And I lay this thing out, and it's absolute mess. There's like nothing in it. Did anybody ever work in fast food? Oh my gosh, you know, we all had, if you maybe had a chance to do that. I worked in fast food, but I was always, you know what they say? They say, whatever you do, however you do one thing is how you do everything, right? I worked at Wendy's for a week, and the manager had me meet with the owner because he wanted me to become an assistant manager. I was in college. He was like, yeah, come and be, and I was like, I don't know. Because that's the way I did everything. I made good burgers, I made good chili, I cleaned, I did the bathrooms, I don't care. Do the job, right? For this poor kid at Taco Bell though, oh my God. So I go in, I'm sorry, this is a deviation. I go in, I get the taco, and I look at this thing, and I'm in my jammies now, right? And I don't live that far from the Taco Bell. I'm like, yeah, I'm that mad. I put it all back in. I go to the Taco Bell. And I say to the kid, because he's just, 17 years old, he's got, where's the manager? So the manager, whoever that is, probably like 23, 24, comes up. And I said, look at this. Is that the way it's supposed to be? And I say, I know, there's a spec book, right? Back in there, how many pickles you're supposed to have, how many lettuces, how many, on whatever they're making at them. So how much beans, how much meat, how much lettuce you're supposed to have. Do you need to get the spec book? He's like, oh no, I'm so sorry, I'll remake it, sir. So, before I forgot, I tell him, for that, I said, go get the scale. And so he has it out, and I have him weigh this thing. It's like 2.1 ounces. It's supposed to be like 3.9. I know, it's just like 1.8 ounces, right? But I'm hungry, and I'm cranky, and I'm in that mood. So I went back. So he weighs that one. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, okay. I'll give it. This guy goes and makes me a taco and a burrito, puts it in a bag. You guys know where this is going?
You gotta know something.
I said, hold on a second. Give me the scale. And I put those two things on. I thought that guy was there was gonna be a problem. All the blood went out of his face, right? Because those things were underweight. And I said, which I believed is true, I said, how can anybody here do their job properly if you don't train them properly? How can they do it? I'm not gonna yell at that kid back there. He's 15 years old, he can't figure out algebra. That's okay. Show him how to make a burrito. That's a job. That's a job. But you're the manager and you don't know what you're doing. And I just put you under pressure to do it absolutely right, and you failed.
Dang.
Right?
They don't,
I know, I'm the worst. I told you I was the
they
worst.
don't ever train their workers the way they're supposed to.
Right.
I've worked at McDonald's many times.
Right.
And they do not whatsoever.
Be careful, because I don't eat McDonald's anymore, but if I did come at 2 in the morning, I'm going to show you how to make that Big Mac.
It's really good you don't order from McDonald's.
I
It's
know.
always messy.
I know, man. It would be a mess. But go ahead.
I want to know how this kid responded.
Oh my God, the next thing was like, I think he like put the vat in there. Like, they were big. They were like oversized.
Well,
Right.
all the prices have went up. You should get your money's worth of food, not like this skimpy.
You know what? The thing is this, I actually cared about the guy that was going to be behind me that was also going to get home. I feel like I probably saved like 25 people who were going to eat messy tacos after that. They're like, put it all in there. Today's our last day. It's all going in. We're reordering tomorrow. I don't know what happened. So, however you do anything is how you do everything. I'm going to talk more about this for you guys later, okay? Very important point. We're going to talk about that. We've got a whole nother hour on that later. You don't have a lot of time in this environment to make a difference with kids. So, the point I was just making, randomly, is that your one interaction with a person, maybe that matters absolutely so much, and you didn't realize it. I mean, think about the environments that, as illustrated in the video, they could have just come from. What is your kindness quotient going to be today? When that kid maybe has bad hygiene, they're telling you to, go sit on a tack, they don't want to do what you're going to say, and you know that they probably need a shower, how are you going to handle these interactions?
You're gonna
All of this is important.
sit there and like calmly talk to them
Absolutely.
in a nice manner and
Yeah.
not judge.
Try not to judge. You're going to make judgments, but when you make judgments, just set them aside. We make judgments, just put them aside. If a child or a person has positive experiences and a positive self-concept, they're generally going to produce more positive behaviors, all right? But a lot of our kids have negative experiences, a negative self-concept, and they produce a lot of negative behaviors, all right? Now, should have told you this at the beginning, but the most important question you should constantly ask when you see a kid, Faith, you're shivering. You know why? You didn't wear this white shirt and this jacket. Oh my gosh, I'm up here, I'm turning it into an igloo up here. She's like, can we start a fire in the building? That's okay. I do that, and then I realize when I see people shivering, I'm like, I like it about 55 degrees in here while I'm talking. Otherwise, I'm sweating.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I know. Crazy.
I like having them asleep.
You put your coat on.
It's sleep, but during the day, no.
No, I got it. I'll take my jacket off if I get hot. Okay.
I'm used to the cold.
Yes.
Me and my fiance sleeps in the car.
Oh, there you go.
So-
Wow.
And we slept in a tent a year ago,
Yeah.
and it was snowy and everything. So
Wow.
we're used to it.
Well, I know you've been snuggling.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about it. Oh my gosh. Kids are going to go through things and you're not going to know what's going on. And the point I was getting to, I think I just skipped over it, was because I saw you shivering.
The one thing we.
The most important thing, right? Can't forget the most important thing. The most important thing is to ask the right question. When you see a behavior that doesn't seem to make sense, maybe is even a little bit disturbing, something far out there, right? What happened that explains that behavior?
Trauma.
Yeah, what happened? What's the trauma? What are you seeing? What's the kid getting in trouble with? What's the adult or person doing that seems maybe out of what you would think normal humans do? Okay, and it might be right at the edge of normal. Maybe the kid is stealing all the crackers. You know, he's taking all the crackers after everybody's had chili and he's putting them in his pocket sneaky. Like, well, what's going on with his crackers? What do you think? What happened? Right? It's not hard, but sometimes things are difficult.
Used
You know?
to sit there pocketing stuff. Cause
Might need it
he
later.
was starved at home or something.
Right. Yeah, some of them are pretty obvious. But sometimes they're not obvious. And that's what I call the broken cookie effect. Okay? The broken cookie. So you're passing out all the snacks, and you pass them all out, and somebody opens their package, and their cookies, there's the exact same number of cookies in the package, but their cookies are broken. They're cracked. And they lose it. And why? Why do they lose it? Maybe they don't have, what's that Piaget said, the scientific knowledge that a broken cookie is the same amount of cookie, right? Law of conservation or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what happened, but they are losing it. They are flipping out, flipping chairs, right? You don't know what happened. You might not even know that it was because of the broken cookie, but it literally could be because of the broken cookie. Now, if we look back, well, maybe big sister always gets the good stuff. And they're looking across the way and, you know, Amanda has completely unbroken cookies and I got the crushed ones. Because why? Because you hate me. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what happens. I had a kid once up on the units. Sometimes I dress like this, sometimes I wear a tie. And it was late. And I was in a tie. I think I was in a suit. I had something to do outside of the hospital. And I'm on the unit late at night, and this kid had this kid.
This morning's
Flash, yeah, that's a flash meeting. It's quick.
Oh, okay.
This kid won't take a bath, and apparently has not taken a bath, or excuse me, he wouldn't take a shower, and he apparently hasn't taken for about 3 days. And he was a little smelly for reasons. And I think he was about 5 or 6. And so I'm getting ready to leave. I'm going to file paperwork. You'll see people doing that with our new electronic systems. There'll be less paperwork, but I'm going to file paperwork. It's about 8:30 at night. And so I'm like, well, let's slow this down a little bit. What's going on? Can I help? You know, you always want to ask the other person if they want help. Maybe they don't. Can I help the adult? Yeah, we'll do whatever you want to do. Mackie magic, they call it. And I was like, okay, let's see what's going on with this kid. So we start talking. Well, guess what? At the age of 5, this kid has never, ever in their life taken a shower.
A bath?
Oh, they've taken a bath.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's an entirely different scientific process.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's definitely-
Jasmine, what do you
I was
think?
thinking about like, wait, did they bathe at all?
Oh, right, because yes, you could they've never been clean. No, they've been clean. But, as you may not know, but most 5-year-olds know, there's a high risk that water will burn your flesh if it's falling from above your head.
That's how they think, or that's a fact?
Is it a fact? It is. Don't take showers, Jasmine, unless they're like, no, of course it's not a fact. But this kid is really literally scared of the shower because he's always got the little tub. Right? Yeah. Sad pout. Yeah, right? So I go in, and I'm tired, and I said, well, let's check on I don't want to get in it, my eyes will burn. I said, well, let's check. And I go with the kid, and I go over to the door, and if you guys get on the unit, you'll see the rooms are set up a certain way. And I say, I need you to come over here and stand right by the door, and I'm gonna go in the shower, because I wanna be in the bathroom at the same time, but you stand right there. And I said, do you know the number for 911? And he's like, 911? I'm like, yes. Okay, you know the number for 911. I'm gonna put my head in the shower, and if we need 911, you stand there and tell the nurse, and she'll call 911. So he's getting involved in the game now, right? So I go and I turn the water on. And then the water starts coming down. I don't care, I'm going home afterwards. I put my head in the water, like this, right? Water's on my face and everything. And this kid, who I realized had real problems, because you know about the radioactive water, right? Says, open your eyes. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You want to see my eyes burn? And I was tired, and I will tell you, for just half a second, I thought I should do this. Ah! But I didn't. He didn't need more trauma. That would be complex trauma, right? Don't do that. See, the bad thoughts will come into your head. Don't do them. So I did open my eyes, and I stood there for a while. And guess what? That kid took a shower that night, right?
It's gotta be a game for the little ones.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think, where is the other person coming from? 5, 6 years old, never taken a shower. Yeah, that could happen, right? I will tell you, with the little kids, sometimes you will see that they don't have what you think are rudimentary, fundamental, basic, be a kid skills, okay? Like, there are some basic skills you might not even think of. Like, I'll tell you one, be able to have fun with nothing.
There's some out there that don't even have any basic child at all. They have to be an adult at 5 years old.
Yeah, and that's probably why they're not very good at some kid stuff, but also most 5-year-old adults are not good at adulting either. Like, I've never seen one pay my mortgage.
They're like in between, if that makes sense. They're like
They're a chimera of what they think an adult should be and what a kid has the capacity to be. Like I say, the smartest 12-year-old that you've ever met probably is about as smart as a 14-year-old. I mean, there's some genius ones, and you probably never met them. They went to Oxford or something. But I'm telling you, a really mature 12-year-old is like a 14-year-old. They're not 27. They're doing the best that a 12-year-old could possibly do with a terrible circumstance, all right? You'll see the little kids, and they don't have the ability to properly use silverware. They don't tend to hygiene, some really basic stuff. And you have to be careful, like, how you interact with that, right? Don't go around calling, oh, that's Stinky Sam. Don't do that, right?
That's mean.
Be careful of the labels that you put on people, even in your own mind. Kids are carrying a lot of things in the background while they're just trying to be a kid. Guilt, shame, brokenness, imperfection, thinking they need to be perfect, feeling imperfect, feeling unloved, and blame. Little kids blame themselves. Ask a 7-year-old why mom does drugs. I was loud. Why'd daddy leave? I cost too much money. I mean, they hear, you know. You guys too young. I saw this new country singer died, but there was this old country singer when I was a kid, and he said, how'd it goes? Skip a rope, skip a rope, listen to the children while they play. It's really not very funny what the children say. Skip a rope.
I think I've heard that before.
I know, but you're getting it.
Mama hates daddy, daddy hates mama, and mama hates dad. Last night you should have heard the fight they had. Skip a rope, skip a rope. It gave my little sister another bad dream. She woke us all up with a terrible scream. Skip a rope. Kids are paying attention, right?
Yeah, every little detail.
It's really not very funny what the children say. Skip a rope. You guys probably didn't even skip ropes. Y'all so young.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did that?
I was
Skip a
gonna
rope.
say.
You had the little song, right?
I think I've heard that song from my grandma.
Oh my goodness, you're grounded forever. I see what you did there. I heard that song from my grandma. I was just starting to like you.
No offense, no offense.
Can you get us a copy of this slide here?
This slide?
Yeah.
Probably, yep. Yeah, they're all available.
Well,
Yeah.
also, I could have heard it from when I was younger too.
Yeah,
Like the radio
yeah.
or something.
That's, I'm gonna go with that one. While
But it could be both.
Grandma was listening to her songs.
I was kind of close to my grandma.
Oh, good, good. Now we're closer. Yes? What'd you say? Oh,
I
thank you.
said on the oldies radio.
Yeah, the oldies radio. This one, this slide I actually, years ago, I wish it said, stop me, I need connection. Stop me, I need connection. If you find a person in your life that you think, oh, they're very attention seeking, stop for a minute. Or don't. Here's some relationship advice if you're in a relationship, okay? The next time, like when I go home at night, I like to do this. It's great fun. I'll come home, maybe my wife has made supper or something, and she'll start talking to me. And what I like to say is, oh my gosh, you are so attention seeking. That will work wonders for your relationship. You should try that with
My
other people.
fiance does that to me. I'm the talkative one in the
You look skeptical about
What do you
this.
mean?
Just say, you're
out
so
of nowhere,
attention
you
seeking.
mean?
Just say it, yeah. No matter what's going on, if they're just trying to talk to you.
I just feel like I would be very offended.
Oh, you think so?
Um,
But guess what? You probably should not try that in your relationship. Some of you are like, am I supposed to write this down? But guess what? We do that to children all the time.
Oh yeah, it happened to me when I was a child.
You say stuff to children all the time you probably wouldn't say to your next door neighbor if you like them. Just treat your kids and the kids you're going to be serving like a next door neighbor that you like. Right?
what if you don't like your next door neighbors?
You probably still could do well by treating like if your neighbor never mows their grass,
Go mow it for them.
you might. I mow my neighbor's grass sometimes. I mow both my neighbor's grass. And every once in a while when I'm out of town, they mow mine.
That's nice.
You know?
It's the equality.
And you know what? There's never a conversation about it actually either. Except something like, hey, did you mow my grass? I was like, yeah. No big deal. He's like, thanks, man. That's it. And there's no obligation for him to mow my grass. But every once in a while, I'll be out of town or something. It's usually not that high, but I know he's trying to get like, I want to mow Mackie's grass, you know. So, so he gets it done.
That's usually how it goes. Usually you won't talk about it until someone asks a question.
Yeah. Well, he's got 2 little kids. I like his kids. My wife is still giving away our kids' toys. Like my youngest son is like 25. But yeah, there's something in the garage, this little mower. And I gave that to the kid, the mower actually. I gave that little fake mower to the kid and he loved that. It was actually when he was still like kind of a walker, just, you know, he could walk and he would push it up and down the street with his mom, you know. And I thought, well, that's good because he's not quite really good at walking yet. So he loved that mower. Withdrawn. When kids are withdrawn, you will be inclined to accidentally ignore them. Because you're going to have 17 kids on the unit that aren't withdrawn and 2 that are withdrawn. And if you're also not careful, you'll let that very sophisticated, slightly older kid take care of them. Don't do that. That's not their job. They are here for their therapeutic reasons. This kid is here for their reasons, and you are responsible for all of them, right? So, you will have some kids that are aggressive. Some people get in a place in a mood where they don't like the aggressive kids. I kind of like the fact that the kids are very honest, they're congruent. Sometimes their aggression is a little overkill for the situation. You know, it's the broken cookie and they flip a chair. But you're not as confused about, is this kid suffering? And it's hard sometimes, but a lot of times when I see a kid that looks angry, you can't say this out loud. Remember I said, ask the question, what happened? Don't ask them. Ask yourself so it informs your behavior, okay? So if I see an angry kid, what I'm thinking is, why are they so sad? Sometimes I'm thinking, why are they so mad? Why can't they trust? You know, after you ask the right question when you see the behavior. And the other thing, we're going to talk a lot more about this later, is you will find it very difficult to regulate another person's behavior. I mean, we can do some things, but the one thing you're going to be very good at, hopefully, over time, is regulating your own behavior. Okay? So, we'll talk more about that in a minute. We want to disable the labels that we put on kids. okay? You're pretty far away from that, but it's all full of all kinds of labels. ADHD, mentally impaired, dyslexic, deaf, blind, idiot, victim. Kids put these labels on themselves. What?
I didn't realize it said the word.
Yeah, it's got words buried in the words. People put labels on themselves. Okay? We're going to talk a lot about this in a minute. Be careful of how you label yourself. The words you say to yourself matter, but the words you say to others, those have a big impact. So be careful about that. And we're thinking about the kids, but also careful how you label your coworkers, right? Because if you put a certain label on them, then you're going to stereotype them. And maybe somebody had a bad day and they didn't want to do the paperwork and they didn't divide it well with you or whatever, you were watching 10 kids and they were watching 4. Well, maybe those were the 4 that were hardest to watch. I don't know. Figure out how to communicate with each other. You have to be the best version of yourself in this environment because the environment will test you. The kids will test you, okay?
So do you guys got deaf kids at all?
We have occasionally served kids. It's not the center, I wouldn't say, but through the years that I've been here, we've had some children that have disabilities that require us to have outside support. We've had some deaf kids. For a while, we're having a lot more kids that were bilingual families. Maybe the kid was bilingual, but the parent wasn't. So we've had to have the appropriate staff come in that could make sure you can do family therapy professionally. In the past, we had counselors that were bilingual, and so they could do the therapy themselves.
Gotcha.
So, but then when you have all the other services, the hospital, you have to have the appropriate interventions to help them. Validation. You don't have to believe everything a kid says to validate them, okay? And also, you have to be very cautious about invalidating them, all right? So I'll give you an example of something a kid might say. They get off the phone, and they'll say, "Oh, my caseworker hates me." And you, trying to be a reasonable adult, might say something like, "Oh, she doesn't hate you. But you don't know her.
But some
And maybe she does hate this kid." What? How can she be a social worker? You never seen a hateful person in a job, you're like, I don't know if you're well suited for this, right?
Definitely not.
So you invalidate the kid if you say, "Oh, I don't think she hates you." That's invalidating. What you could say is, "What's going on? What happened? What's the situation? I've called her 6 times today. She never answers my calls." Now you have more information, but you could still invalidate them. You say, "Well, maybe you should stop leaving so many messages." That's invalidating, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you said, "Wow, that must be really frustrating. If you try to call me 6 times and I'll call you, you're gonna be frustrated?" You know what the kids call this thing on, you send someone a text and then they don't answer? You know what they call that?
Left it on red.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
What is that?
Say it.
Left it on red.
Left it on read, you read it, or left it on delivered. So it says read, but then you don't respond, okay? And that is like a bad social thing if you're, like if you're texting your grandma, you text her, and then she texts you like 5 days later, and you're like, "What's that, grandma?" That's normal, right? It's like reading a letter. It's like, "Oh, I'm gonna write them back," right? But the kids nowadays, like 3 seconds, you have like 3 seconds before you hate them, apparently, if you don't respond. So that's a big deal. So, so when these kids leave a voicemail and they don't get a response, they expect sort of instantaneous, and you'll know this from your interactions from them too. If you say, "Well, wait a minute," some of them can't tolerate a minute, right? And then if your minute is actually like my wife's makeup minute, like I'm just gonna finish my makeup, it'll take a minute. That's like 17 minutes apparently. Like there's a formula in there I don't understand. It's like, don't get started, don't just roll with it. We're gonna take a break in a minute. I know some of you are wondering when we take a break. Probably just shortly after this. So I mentioned earlier that there was literally a list of things that we could think about as having adverse impacts on children, okay? This is called the ACEs inventory, okay? And these 10 items, you can completely ignore them or you can look at them, but don't let them sink into your head right now. These 10 items are transparent. Anything you see on there, you're like, oh yeah, that happened to me. Neglect, poverty, even down here at the bottom, divorce, they left it on there because it matters, okay? But don't add up your score in your head because then you'll get distracted. We're not gonna do that right now. But these are the things children are going through, okay? The adverse childhood experiences was looked at by a giant insurance company named Kaiser Permanente because they were trying to figure out why are some adults health risk, why they're expensive, why they demand a lot of health care. And so they asked lots of questions called a multivariate analysis. They maybe asked thousands of questions and they said, wow, it all comes down to these 10 questions. And you might think it might be something interesting like maybe adults have bad outcomes if they smoke, right? But guess what? It wasn't the most important factors. The most important factors were the 10 that they put into the adverse childhood experiences were things that happened when you were a child. So maybe you do smoke as an adult, and they call this correlational, not causational. In other words, when two things happen at the same time, doesn't mean one caused the other one, all right? They just happened at the same time. So these childhood experiences had a negative impact on adult health behavior, including things like obesity, likelihood of getting a sexually transmitted disease, heart disease, congestive heart failure, premature death. Like literally having these negative experiences, unremediated, these things cause health problems, right? And this is the list. Now, the reason we have the list here is not so you can give yourself a score and go, oh my God, I got a 7. What's gonna happen? I literally had a guy that I'd known prior to coming to training, and he came up afterwards, he goes, Mr. Mackey, am I going to die? And he looked so concerned, and I felt so bad because I said, yes. He's like, what? I'm like, I don't know, are you immortal? I could be wrong. He's like, no, I meant about the, I was like, oh, okay. Of course, we're all gonna die, right? But he had a 10. He had a 10. I was like, dude, these are the things I see that you're doing to try to be healthy in life, you know? And so we had that conversation about what he was doing as an adult to try to be healthy, right? So I think that's where we go if you see yourself with a high score. But what I want you to think about with these things is children are in the process of trying to learn, as someone was saying earlier, how to be kids. What does a child do? Ride a bike? Climb a tree? Throw a baseball through a window they're not supposed to? Yes, all of those things. But some of them are distracted by these things, okay? And if you go to school and you're trying to learn the number 7 and you're worried, is dad gonna hit mom? My little sister stayed home, is she gonna have anything to eat? And you're trying to learn the number 7 that day, you're probably not gonna be very good at the number 7. And missing the number 7 might matter later. 3 plus 4 equals, I don't know. What do you mean? 3 plus 4 equals what? I don't know. Like there's gaps in what you would consider a knowledge base, right? And what about in what they might call daily living skills? Okay, I mean, I hate to say it, but guys, I have had to have conversations with 15 and 16-year-old boys and girls about wiping your rear end. Because somebody missed something when these kids were little and hygiene didn't get elevated to a certain level of what we're accustomed to in our society, right? And all of you will probably have situations where you're gonna have to interact with some of the young women about some basic hygiene stuff that they don't know when you're thinking they should know. They're 15. They don't know. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of parents that out there that won't teach
Right?
them.
Okay? And the little kids, I mentioned, sometimes they will get done with a meal and there will be more food on their face that I think started on their tray. Like just hitting their mouth with food is not, they don't seem to have mastery of that, right? Or if they do have food on their face, saying, oh, where's a napkin or something I can go wash my face because they'll just walk around with food caked on it. Not any little kid, will do that. You'll see a 3-year-old and get their cold and it's running. You're like, oh, no. Let me get that for you. I got it. Oh no, I got it. Especially that really long tongue. Let's not think about it. Look what I can do. Oh. All right. So we can take a break now, or I can go for about 5 more minutes. What do you guys want to do? I realized if we want to take a long break, let's go 5 minutes, and then you guys can take a 10-minute break. That means you have to jog to your smoky air. It's a game. Sorry. All right, let's talk about your brain real quick. You guys like to think that you're using your brain to make decisions, right? Okay? And that's called your executive brain. On this part, your prefrontal cortex. It's the smart part of your brain. It's where you think your thinking happens, right? Okay, so let's just have fun. Remember at the very beginning, I said, give me a score on how much you trust me. And we talked for about 7 minutes, right? Now look back at your score, okay? And try to write down reasons that you wrote down that score however long ago it was. Just 1 or 2 sentences, 1 or 2 words. What do you think was the reason you wrote down the score that you wrote down?
Are we turning this in?
Oh, I'm definitely judging yours. No, it's for your own edification. And then I'm gonna post them on the internet. No, it's for you. We can't talk about it though. In fact, we probably will, especially if it's awkwardly embarrassing to me. So, okay? What?
No.
It's okay.
I'm not writing it down.
Oh my gosh. So curious what she
We
thinks.
have trust issues.
I know. All right. So that whatever you wrote down, you think came from this part of your brain. Okay? That's what you think. You think I made a very informed decision based upon some really interesting factors. Okay? Could be a lot of things that you paid attention to. The reality is, some of you wrote down what you wrote because of your emotional brain. You actually, and the thing about your executive brain is it mostly deals with words and images and pictures and knowledge, what you might call crystallized intelligence. Oh, well, you don't look like you ironed your shirt today, Mr. Mackey, so I don't know if I trust you. Or, wow, you wore a jacket, but you didn't wear a tie. I don't know if I should trust you. That's what your executive brain, you think, is paying attention to, but your emotional brain doesn't understand words. It mostly hears mumbles and sounds, and it picks up on some other things going on inside of you. It could be something different. Did I shave early enough this morning? Do I have a mustache or a beard? Is my hair long? What else is going on? Stuff that you didn't really attend to, but maybe tied into something else. Okay? So think for a minute, but try to shift past that to your emotional brain. What emotions did you feel when I asked you, do you trust me? Do you trust me? What did you feel? What was emotion? So write that down. What were the emotions that were going on there? Could have been patience, excitement, fear, jealousy, anger, insecurity. Okay? What were the emotions underneath that? Even though you think those emotions are very important, the really strange reality is beneath those emotions was your survival brain. Okay? Some people call this the triurnal brain theory, 3 brains. Sometimes they call this something like your executive brain. They'll call this your mammalian or your emotional brain. This is your survival brain, or sometimes they'll say lizard brain. Okay? Models are useful because they give us a way to think about things. It's not a perfect model. And just so you know, science is really amazing. They've caught up now. Your brain here is not a dog brain or a monkey brain. It has different DNA. It's not like a monkey brain. And this part of your brain isn't like a lizard brain. It doesn't have lizard DNA. Okay? It's not an evolved brain that this is like a lizard, okay? But it is your survival brain. And here's the thing. You probably won't be able to answer this question, but you will try. What in your survival brain related to the score that you wrote down?
So if we know right away, does that mean
You're amazing.
We're amazing?
Yes, it does. But it definitely means you have to tell me now, Tiffany.
Oh, yeah, no.
On the survival brain, that's so curious. Look at your smile. You definitely want to share it, doesn't she? I could be wrong. Here's the really important thing. Even though you're going to share it, Tiffany, the most important thing is it's really not about me. And even though it's going to be awkward for some of you to share what you are sharing, it's not about you.
We're sharing.
Relax, Jasmine. Stop yelling at me.
No, I think it's fascinating, actually, that you asked me to score you and you were able to take me through and I can write down that connection. That is fascinating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that is fascinating. And the reason I want you to be fascinated by this, and the reason it's okay for us to talk about it, is because this process, and I want you to see how it works, is going to happen over and over and over again with children, except the subject of it is you, and you're not going to really actually have this conversation, okay? So let's make this easy for you guys. Usually, I ask that question so early in the conversation that it's a pretty low score, okay? So they're usually mostly below 5, all right? I get concerned a little bit if they're a 6 or 7 or an 8. You don't know me that well. Why would you trust me? Okay? A 7? Did you give me a 7? I get a little concerned about that. It's okay. You need to think about that.
I gave you an 8, but that's because I I easily trust people. I give all my trust into people, and if you lose that trust, then it's done. I was taught to always give my trust to people and respect to people.
In this situation, having a 7 or 8 is probably completely safe. If I were trying to sell you something and you had to put trust in me, then I would want you to have like a 2 or a 1. Okay? But really, even there, even in this situation, you should think about, why did you trust me so easily? It's fascinating to think about it. Okay, so who thinks you have the lowest score? Who gave me, okay. Look, Faith is like, oh, maybe hers is even lower. Okay. Do you want to share a thought or what about that? I know it was early, but what about it? How did you get to your score? What's interesting about it?
I guess like part of me trusts you because you know so much about trauma and stuff, and like about stuff I went through when I was a kid and the emotions that come with that.
Right.
But then part of me is like, I don't trust you because a therapist got me put in foster care. So like, and a lot of kids probably feel that way about people.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. In the first 7 minutes, you're like, brain said, oh yeah, he's like that SOB, they got me put in foster care, right? And experiences, remember we said experiences? That's amazing. That is great. And that is also brilliant that you see that's what's going to happen with a kid, right? That's what's going to happen with a kid because guess what? You're the therapist now. I'm not a therapist, I'm a tech. No, you're a therapist. I saw you talking to the therapist, right? Okay, anybody else? Low score? What's your name tag? You don't even want me to know who you are. What is it? What's your name? Kiana? Kiana, why such a low score?
Just because I don't know you as a person. Like,
Right.
You could just put up front and it could be a whole different person on the other side.
Absolutely. And 7 minutes. Okay, all right, what else?
I put a low number because you're a man.
Because I'm a man. I'm such a manly man, too. It makes it even double worse. Yeah, no, think about that. Definitely a man. Absolutely a man.
I was gonna give you a 0, but
I didn't even allow that. You're so harsh. You went below the grading scale.
okay, 1. But because of the respect that he had for you, I'm so bad with names. I'm so sorry.
Ryan.
Yes, that Ryan had for you, that gave me a little bit more.
So that got me off of 0 to 1. Thanks,
No, I
Ryan.
gave you a 3.
But that's interesting. No, let me think about that because today's Tuesday, right? So you spent all day with Ryan yesterday. No?
Just a few
Last
hours.
part? Okay. So a little bit of the trust you had in Ryan transferred to me. So that was actually trust in Ryan. If he says, Mackey's an okay dude, then you're like, maybe, I don't know. Okay? It's fine. All right, Tiffany, you want to get into it?
Ooh. I don't know
I got ex-husband vibes coming off of you. What is it?
Oh no.
What is it? I don't know. What's going on?
No, I'm not gonna share.
That's okay. That's okay.
Was it a one?
No, it was the number was a 2.
Okay, that's still low. Yeah. Do you want to say anything, Jasmine?
No.
Okay. Anybody else? Here's the thing. The kids are going to do this with you. Okay, now let's talk about the realness. I asked nothing of you except to sit there and be a decent audience. I asked nothing of you.
I gave you an 8.5.
8.5. Okay, thank you.
Because when I came in the room, like, I got this vibe, like, he's pretty cool. But then I have trust issues with men.
Gotcha. And well, here's the other thing I want you guys to think about, though. I asked you to do this early. Some of your reflections are based upon an extra hour and 20 minutes. Okay? Like, Faith, you now are like, okay. But at the beginning, I didn't give you time very much. I gave you a limited amount. All right? Now let's talk about something very real that happens to the kids. I'm going to say your score with more than half the kids, except for you two, is going to be the score you gave me. And then you're going to tell them you need to look at them naked. I didn't ask that of you. Yeah. Grimace. You're going to say, before you can join the rest of the kids on the unit, if it's a female, you and another female are going to go look at them head to toe. You guys know why we do this, right? Have you studied body checks already? That's what you're going to ask them. We have to do that because they might have cuts or something on their person that they're going to hurt themselves with later. They may have bruises. They will have harm done to them. But you're going to say, we need to do a body check assessment to show that you're safe. But what they're going to hear is, I'm going to look at you naked.
Not debunks the test.
This is not about me, me and you right now. This is about you with a child. You got to a perfectly reasonable score. Okay? You got there a certain way. So don't judge yourself for that. But also don't judge my kids when they don't want you in the room and they don't want to show you their body. And everything else you're going to ask of them. Trust me when I say I need you to come downstairs with me my way. Trust me when I need to take you to RT. Trust me when I say get in a vehicle and ride for 4 hours here with me and one other person. Jump in the van. That's what we're asking of these kids. Okay? So I appreciate your honesty, Tiffany, everybody. Your honesty with yourself. Now understand, you are the person who is going to be trusted or not trusted. And you guys, your scores were out of order. The kids aren't going to trust you with 8s. Don't think they will. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question. In the situation that we are having to do a body check, and they feel too uncomfortable, what do you guys do?
First of all, just so you understand, I am an allied health professional. I never do body checks. Not with the boys, not with anybody. I actually don't go hands-on with the children. I apologize. You can be in a terrible situation. I will go and talk to all the other kids. I will not intervene and go hands-on with the kids, okay? I'm an allied health professional. It's like doctor's privileges at the hospital. I don't do that. I have basically the kind of privileges that the guy that loads the vending machine does. He can come in the hospital and provide his service.
Oh, so you literally cannot.
I literally cannot. I will not put hands on. When I was here years ago, a young woman, nurse was being hit in the face by kind of a little kid, and I put my hands, I won't do it, like this is their head, okay? I put my hands this way around their face to block the hits, and I kind of got, they didn't put a letter in my file, but they're like, you do not get involved in physical restraints.
So if a nurse is getting
I mean, unless it's my last day, if I get involved, it could be a situation. So now I can get involved with the other children. Like I can, and I have, you guys can probably imagine, a certain amount of authority when I show up, even with the new kids. That's true. That's why some people say 8s. I can show up and be an authority pretty easily. Okay, and I can assess the situation. I will help you.
And try to talk
but I
her
won't
down.
be in those situations. Now, we were coming back to the body exam question. I'll tell you a true story. It's years ago now. Because there's a lot of processes going on I'm not a part of, you know? So we had this little guy, and we have the repeats, you know? So he came when he was like 7, he came when he was 9, okay? We're just gonna talk like adults in here, okay? And then he came when he was like 12 or 13, little guy. And I go by on the unit in the morning doing something, and the kid's sitting in a plastic chair. He's not in population yet, right? I come back like 3 or 4 hours later, I see him there, shoot the breeze with him, he's still in the chair. I was like, well, maybe it's a busy day, a lot of discharges, missions, I don't know what's going on. I don't even ask him. Come back like 2 hours later, 2 or 3 hours later, he's still in the chair. I've now seen him for 6 hours and he's in the chair. I'm like, what's going on? So I go back, I asked the nurse, this years ago, I didn't know. She said, well, he hasn't done his body exam. So I go around, I'm like, hey man, what's up? Why aren't you doing the body exam? I'm not freaking doing it, Mr. Mackey. I'm like, okay, can we have a conversation? No! I was like, all right. I was like, what is a body exam? It's like, they gotta look at everything. They're gonna look at my junk. I'm like, oh. I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's true. Do we look at people's junk? Like, I didn't know. We look at people's junk? We look at their penis? So I go ask my friend, the nurse, hey, Mr. Toby, what the hell is this body exam? What are you doing back here? It's like, you know, we have to look at the kids from head to toe. I'm like, head to toe, everything? He's like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, man. So again, realize I don't have any responsibility or authority on these matters. I'm here as a provider. So I say, like, how far does that go? I was like, well, so I ask him, like, can the kid, he's 13, you know, can he hold his junk? Can he hold his penis? Can he cover up his penis and do the body exam? Like, is that okay? It's like, yeah. So we get there. And I go tell the kid, hey, you can do this. Because guess what? What's changed? He's 13. He has hair on his penis now. He actually has more of a penis. He's actually concerned about it. He's self-conscious about it. He did body exams. He's 7, 9. Okay, I got my body exam. Doesn't care. Now he cares. Now it matters. Maybe nothing's happened. It's just now he sees himself differently. So yes, the nurses, the techs, they're very thoughtful. They're very considerate. And it has to be done. And it's not always an easy conversation. You can imagine some of the circumstances the kids come from that requires a lot more than a 1 or a 2 in trust. But you don't have it yet. Yeah. And you're still gonna do the body exam. See what I'm saying? Yeah. That, just so you know, this exercise is very useful. Okay? And I am not judging. I'm using this as an illustration. Tiffany doesn't want to even share what she wrote down. And I didn't ask her to stand naked in front of you guys. I mean, I did, but I let her not. You see what I'm saying? Okay? And that's not even, like, the physical part is metaphorical for me. It's metaphorical. We can talk about that. You can all feel uncomfortable about it, right? Emotionally, that is exactly the same thing that's happening. Right? Yeah. It's emotionally, psychologically the same thing. So we have to be very respectful and very considerate. And guess what? Perfect model today of what I do therapeutically. I ask, and I hear the no. And they come back. I ask again, and I hear the no. And I give you one more time. And other people share. And that's what happens in group therapy. And sometimes kids don't talk about it because they haven't built up trust. And here's the bad news. Sometimes they're here for 7 days. And then somebody says, well, you haven't tried to kill yourself for 3 days, so you can go. And they never got to talk to me about it. So yes, when you see those kids coming out of group, they're coming out of group therapy with me, something's been happening in there. Okay? And I'm gonna come and tell you if you're a charge nurse or even if you're a tech, I'm gonna come say, hey, we just did this thing, and so-and-so is talking about their stepdad, and so-and-so is talking about their dad killed himself, and these things are happening. So if the kid's a little fussy during snack time, you're like, oh yeah, Mike's been over there talking therapy with him. And also, don't put that on the therapist. That's what we're here to do. We didn't make your unit get discombobulated. We did our jobs. And you're going to be a part of that process. We're all in the process of truly, if we get the opportunity, of saving these kids' lives. Right? And I'm old enough now, we're going to take a break, that people your age come up to me and go, hey, you're the same Mr. Mackey? I didn't used to, I had red beard and short hair. This one young woman was at the grocery store the other day. She's back there talking to her friend, but she's going like this, Mr. Mackey, Mr. Mackey. She likes saying Mr. Mackey every once in a while because she wasn't sure I was me. So she didn't want to say, hey, Mackey, because I might not be me.
Right.
And I heard, I was like looking over there, and she's like, oh, are you Mr. Mackey? I'm like, yeah, you say Mr. Mackey? Yes. You saved my life. You changed my life. I'm doing what I'm doing now because of you. What are you doing? Studying to be a counselor. I'm working with kids. In this very room, in the years past, I have had 5 people who came up in the past year who said, do you remember me? I was here when I was 17. You know, or some that said, do you remember me? I was at Boys and Girls Town. I was there for 15 years before I was working over here.
Wow.
You changed my life. You saved my life. Okay? I did have this one woman though. I didn't recognize her. She didn't say anything. And then later, I saw her on the unit and she was looking so squirrely. I was like, what's going on with her, man? It was weird. And then she's like, do you remember me? And then she was older and she'd gained some weight. And I was like, I kind of remember your face. And she's like, I was this. And she told me who she was. And she was this little girl when she was 9. She lived right down here at the end of the road at Shear House. That's part of Boys Town. She used to, this is so awkward. She used to, when she was 9, terrible trauma. But when she was getting ready to get restrained, she'd like hit somebody, break something, start going cuckoo. She'd take all her clothes off. So then it was really awkward because like in the men, you don't really want to be involved in the restraint. She'd be taking her clothes off while you're restraining her, you know. It's like, and she's like a little spider monkey, right? So you're like, and she's wet and slippery and, and that's the thing. She would pee on you. And that was her. And she's like, oh, I was so bad, Mr. Mackey. I was like, yeah. 3 kids doing better. She's here helping kids. You know, things got better, right? All right, here's what we're gonna do. We are going to take a 12-minute break. I want you back in 12 minutes, all right? And then we're gonna do 1 more hour. So take a break. You have time to walk, and I'll
How
see
do
you.
we get back in the?
Oh my goodness! Don't follow Faith. You can get back. You have keys?
I don't think that I do.
Somebody
I
make
wasn't
Emma your
here
buddy.
For orientation.
Emma's your buddy.
yesterday.
I'm calling somebody.
Who's got keys?
Hi,
You won't be able to go and come without keys. Work together. 12 minutes. 11 now.
Can you just go back to that yellow slide and I'll just